What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be building some Subaru heads. I have one fully assembled T20 head behind me and another unassembled. We're going to be assembling that other one today. We'll go through the entire valve train from the valves all the way up to the retainers and keepers. First though, I want to go over the lapping process. Not many people go over the lapping process. So the first 5 minutes of this video or so are going to be going over how to lap valves. These are brand new heads, brand new valves, but I'm still going to give them a fine lap. So let's go into that and then we'll kind of go through the whole process from there. Okay, so I already lapped one here, but we'll go over the process for lapping these valves. It should just be a fine compound that you're using, just a fine grade. Let that focus. This is what I'm using. Along with, this came as a set. This is the valve lapping tool. I just do it by hand. You can use a drill if you want, especially if you're, going at older valves and a used head. But for a new head, new valves, you should just be doing like a very light kind of lapping. This is an exhaust valve. Said we already got one in there. Go. One beautiful super alloy JSC standard size exhaust valve. Kind of wipe it off here with a microfiber. It has some oil on it, but not the kind really I think that we want to get down in there, so we'll wipe that off. And then just apply a very small amount to where the valve would seat here. So just all around the rim. Just a very small amount. Again, this is fine compound. You don't need anything crazy. And you'll see here pretty quick how quickly this is done. So we got it all around. You don't need, again, a crazy amount. Now we're gonna I'll oil it up one more time just for the hell of it. Oil down here. Make sure it's oiled good. You don't want to mess up the valve guide or the valve. So now we're in. And if I start to turn this slowly, the camera should pick it up. A kind of a grinding sound. Hear that? So that's how we know we're going to get a little bit. So basically I'm just going to kind of rub it here back and forth. Again, this with a drill, this would be a lot easier. I have a drill, I could do it with a drill, but with new heads, new valves, you should need to really go to town on this, and you want to kind of feel it out and kind of listen for it. So you'll hear the grinding get less and less loud. It'll sound, the sound will dissipate, and that's when you want to lift it up, lift up the valve, and then turn it a little bit, and then reseat it and start going again until basically you hear no noise. So listen here. Hear how the noise dissipated. We'll lift it up, go again. 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 This shouldn't need a lot of work. So we'll pull it out. I will clean this puppy off. Then we'll oil this back up. Going crazy with the oil here. Drop her in. A little ting. And then what I'm going to do is, I actually try to spin these by hand. So this one right here, I can't really spin it by hand. I can't. There's no spin there. So you know if you're spinning it by hand, you kind of want there to be that contact to where it can't easily spin by hand. So this one, same thing, can't really spin it. So we know that seat's pretty good. And what we're going to do is I'll lap the rest of these, and then we'll go through and we will actually do the same water test that I did in other videos, where we're going to pour some water in, kind of check for leakage. Then when we put the springs, retainers, and everything on, we will do the same water test, but I will spray air up in the exhausts and intake ports, and we'll check for leaks there as well. So we'll kind of check it in 3 separate ways, but that's how we're going to do the lapping process. Okay, so when you have the valves all lapped, or you believe that you do, the next step would be to check that. I'm just going to check this side. Obviously this side I'm not fully done yet, but wanted to go over the process Basically put a spark plug in the hole. We've done this test before, it's not too complex. And then what you're going to do is just put some water in here. And before we do that though, let's get some paper towels. Put the paper towel in the exhaust port and in the intake port. Okay. Again, there's no springs in right now. This is just the valves like literally laying in their holes. So we'll see if, based off pouring this water in and giving it some time, if there's any leakage. If there is, we know we need to do some more lapping. So try to fill this up as much as you can. There we go, full to the brim. And we will come back and check this, and we'll give it an hour. Okay, so it's been an hour and a half, and we can clearly see no water on any of these. This is still filled to the brim. So we know that the seats are fully lapped here. We're ready to go. Okay, so other side done lapping, and then I filled it up with water. We'll check that in just a sec, but just wanted to show you while we're waiting on that kind of how far I go and how far I know to go with the lapping. So let's let the camera focus on that. You can kind of see the line from the this used to be entirely smooth. That kind of more coarse area is what the lap did on this exhaust valve. This is an exhaust valve. And then if I take out, it's oiled really nicely, but we still want to be gentle as we put that back in. There we go. And then if I go to the intake valve, the area is actually slightly smaller, not a lot. So let it zoom real quick. Kind of see there the line left. It's not quite as much. You want it uniform all around, but it's not going to be quite as thick as the exhaust line that you would have. And the reason being is because the seating area is not quite the same. So I believe it's about a little over a millimeter on this than the intake side, and a little over 2 millimeters on the exhaust side. So it's almost double the size of you know, the seat area from intake to exhaust, and that's kind of what you're looking for when you're lapping these to make sure they sit. And obviously this check that I'm doing right now is a great check. Okay, so now that the valves are all lapped, we did that simple water test. What I did here was I labeled everything 1, 2, 3, 4 on the intake and exhaust, and labeled the head as well. That way we can match everything up when we're done, because these have been lapped for these specific valve positions. The reason we want to do this is because we're going to pull them out, and I'm going to spray everything down with brake clean, kind of clean it off, and then tip it over, and we'll start the assembly from the other side. So we want to make sure that everything's labeled so we know what's going on here. Okay, so after we lapped the valves, we want to make sure we clean them thoroughly. So see, cardboard, microfiber towel, put everything down, and then we're going to spray it off with some brake clean. If you aren't going to lap anything, or you just got these back from the machine shop and they're kind of ready to go, I'd still recommend cleaning them before assembling. So just some simple brake clean will work. You can pressure wash, but if you do, like with water and soap, which would probably be better for actually getting like maybe the lapping compound out, or metal out, but you have to worry about rust with machine services. So make sure you oil everything back down kind of when you're done. So spray this down. Good, and then we'll flip it over very gently. There we are. It's dry. Wipe everything, just go through. Totally dry, but you want to watch your microfiber lint here. Just make sure shop towel would also work well. Just make sure you're not leaving any residue on it. That's wiped off. Now let's go to this side. Out, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get the majority of what didn't dry out, and then we'll blow it out. So we'll take it to the bench, and then we'll blow it out, and then we're ready to start assembling. Okay, just to show what I'll be installing all here, This is the valve keepers, just OEM. The keepers, IAG springs, IAG titanium retainers, JSC spring seats, and then JSC valve stem seals. We have the lapped JSC valves here, numbered and kind of marked off as the heads are drying from being cleaned with the brake clean. We'll kind of move this all off to the side and kind of start our process here with the stem seals. Okay, head is back. We're going to blow it off real quick. Basically, we're going to get in all the oil galleys and the coolant kind of ports, especially where, you know, the valve train is going to go. Just blow everything off, make sure we got everything out. And then we'll flip it over, do the same thing. Okay, everything's been cleaned, valves have been lapped. Now we're going to start the assembly process. So we're going to start on this side. I numbered all the valves from the lapping process, so they're kind of organized over here. We're just going to lube them up with some Lucas assembly lube. This is what I always use. Put them in and then turn them over and make sure things don't fall out. So let's go through them. See, the valves are still numbered here, and maybe they're a little bit dirty on the tops, so I'll clean those off when we're all complete. But now we're going to go ahead and flip it over. Okay, we got the valves in, flipped over. Now we're going to install the valve stem seals. Pretty easy process, we'll go over that, but here is an example of one of these valve stem seals. Again, JSC ones. We're going to just put some assembly lube a little bit on the inside and then kind of slide it down, and I'll show you how to really seat them. There's two different ways to seat these. Both are kind of involve a 10 millimeter here. So 10 millimeter, just a long 10 millimeter and an extension. So you can either put the 10 millimeter over it if it's kind of perfectly snug, push down, and then kind of feel it kind of seat. So you'll feel it sit, right? I'm gonna go through and do that on all these. The other way to do it is to kind of beat it with a hammer. And you're not, when I say beat it, obviously you're not going to go crazy with the hammer. You're just going to kind of hit it on there, and you'll hear a distinct change in sound when you're kind of hitting it. So I'm gonna do all but one with this method, and then we will do this last one with kind of that rubber mallet hitting method. Okay, so got the rubber mallet here. It's seen better days, but still works. So this is the last one right here. We're going to kind of listen here. If you hear, there's kind of a ting there at the end. We'll go and check these other ones. Then it's on to spring seats. Okay, so now it's onto the spring seats. Same thing that we've been doing, lubing everything up and then putting it on. Some things you do need to lube, some things you don't, but with this engine assembly lube, you kind of can't go wrong, right? It's not going to hurt anything to lube anything up for the most part. I mean, you don't want to go crazy with it, but I just lube everything. It's just easier, and you don't have to worry about, you know, did I lube that? Do I need to lube that? So I just lube everything up. So let's put these in. install the springs. You can see some of these are maybe a little bit off. We can use a pick to kind of put them in perfect place, but once we put the spring in, again, I'll lightly lube the bottom and top of the spring. Once we put the spring in, we'll sit where it needs to be. There we go. Okay, those are all in. Now we're going to go ahead and put on the retainers. Surprise, we're going to lube these up. Okay, so now all these springs, retainers, spring seats, valve seats are in. Now the fun part. Okay, so now we're gonna install these keepers. Not a fun process, but I mean, some go in really quick, some can take a little bit of time. I find it's easier with putting some lube on there to kind of hold them in place, but either way, you're gonna need some form of a tool. I just bought this tool specifically from Amazon. There are other manufacturers of this tool, but it's really simple. It's not complex. Basically, you're just gonna mount it to the side that you need here on the head. After, of course, you're going to put this in first, and then you'll have access through this little kind of hole to see and be able to put the actual keepers in place. So let's get this installed. We're just going to use the bolts that go for this portion here into to hold the cam cap in place. Put that right in. Actually, obviously, we want to install that first. Don't have to go crazy ham on these. You don't have to even really torque them to spec. Just get them kind of tight in there by hand. And then we can go ahead and turn the other piece there. It's actually going to collapse down the spring. Okay, so now we have this installed. We'll just kind of crank this down until we have access to that the top of the valve stem. Sometimes the valve will kind of fall down, so we want to make sure that it's not. There we go. Kind of see the stem coming up there. Okay, so now that we have the spring compressed enough to where we need, right? We're going to actually put the keeper in place. And what I do is I just put it on a pick with some engine assembly lube and kind of get it in there. It's not going to be fun, but it's got to go in its home. There's going to be 2 that go to each valve. Ooh, that one got really lucky there. Real lucky. Kind of spin it around. And then we can put the other one in. So we got real lucky on that one. Again, some are going to be pretty easy and go right in. Others aren't. Putting this engine assembly lube on this pick to kind of hold the keeper, and then like let it kind of slide down. There we go. Some will be easier than others. Ooh. May have gotten real lucky there. Let's slide it down a little bit, make sure they're in place, and that is the process right there. Just let it up, take some tension off the spring, and we'll see if we're retained. And that is the process. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it goes that quick, other times it does not. So I'll go through and put all these in, but that's how I do it, just engine assembly lube and a pick. If things do fall down, I would have a magnet handy just in case, and kind of pick things up as they fall in. But that is the process. Okay, so kind of different angle with more light. As you can see, this one is in. We have to go through the rest. That first one was really easy. I don't anticipate them all being that easy, but again, as you're going through this process, just make sure when you're clamping down the tool, you want to make sure the valve is centered in the retainer. and the spring is seated correctly. So you don't want to, you can't really screw it up, but you just want to kind of pay attention to those things and make sure you lube up everything very well. So let's go ahead and put these other keepers in, and then we'll go from there and show the final product. Okay, so exhaust side complete. One tool that did come in extremely handy just for fishing stuff out when I couldn't really get a magnet in there, and actually placing some were these extremely long needle nose pliers. Again, be gentle with the needle nose pliers. You don't want to jam them in there or anything, but just to place the keepers maybe before you kind of play with them with the pick. So this whole side took me probably about 15 minutes, which isn't too bad. Only one gave me a real hard time. Let's do the intake side, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so finishing this side up, and here we have a complete finished, we'll say, set of heads with the valve train. The only thing left to do valve train wise would be the cams, but we don't want to do the cams and set the valve lash until this is actually bolted to the head. So this is not the last step for me here. One more step, and we already did this once already, is to take and flip this puppy over, check to make sure everything looks good here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do that water test one more time. Okay, so now we have the spark plugs in place. Let's fill this up with water, each one. Just remember, get it as full as you can. Then we're going to let this sit. But we can also blow air up, because now we can check the kind of spring with any bubbles. I don't do a crazy amount, but no bubbling there. We will let this sit for about an hour, and then we'll come back and check and mark this off as complete after we wipe the face of the valves off. Okay, it's been an hour. There's a little water going this way, but that's because I accidentally rocked the table a little bit. No leakage at all in here. See these dry. All these are very dry. Double check, but they should be. Last one dry, and the water level hasn't dissipated at all. You can see it's still at the very, very top. All right, so next step would be just to clean these off, but we are done. Then we will attach these to the block. We're getting closer to getting this thing back on the track. Please like and subscribe. The next video will be me bolting the heads to the block and getting the block assembled.